back to WAC Media Day. I am joined by renowned national basketball analyst, Jeff Goodman. Jeff, thanks for being here with us today.
I don't know about renowned. That sounds a little strong right now, but I'll take any compliment I can get because I don't get a lot of them. So I appreciate it, Mike.
It's written in my contract to say that. Yeah, so I don't know if that was from you or what, but we're thankful to have you on with us, and we're here to talk about some big picture WAC basketball stuff, and really kind of what I was excited to talk to you about. If you take the last 3 years of the WAC, 25th, 15th, and 11th, those are the rankings from a Ken Palm perspective on how good the WAC has improved the last 3 years. Can you give us your general take on the WAC from a national perspective?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think honestly, what Brian Thornton's done and his staff over there, they deserve the credit for this because, I've known Brian since he was a kid and he's forward thinking, right? And that's what you're going to get with a young commissioner like that who has played college basketball at the highest level. He understands it. You got a lot of these other commissioners that are old school, brought in as business people. And again, they've got their strengths. Well, Brian's, I think, is again, that he was in it, number one. He's incredibly well connected, number two, and I think he's really good with people. So I think he's the perfect guy. Again, I see all these leagues hiring these business people, and I get it because of the TV contract part of it. That's why they're doing it. But I think what Brian's doing here is his versatility is able to take the WAC to where now I think it's on the major upswing because of innovation. And again, because he's not afraid to call people and get their input.
Yeah, I think it's a great point when you're talking innovation specifically. A fantastic segue into what we're going to be talking about throughout Media Day. It's the only conference in college basketball that is looking at their league and saying, how can we put our best teams in position, not just to win games in postseason, but to get higher seeds in the NCAA tournament, in the NIT. So you take a portion of in-house analytics and Ken Palm and the net ranking, and you say, we're going to come up with a formula for putting our best teams in position to win at the end of the season and in postseason. So that looks cool. It sounds great. It worked pretty well last season, but why, on a national perspective, is that important? Is that a big deal?
Well, again, I think it's good to try to come up with different ways, because if you keep it the way it was, you are what you are, right? You're a one bid league and you're talking about getting like a 15 seed. Maybe you get a 14. Well, now I think you have to try to figure out different ways, and it may not work, but what's the harm in trying? Otherwise, you're just saying we're okay with it, right? We're gonna stand down and just be okay with the way it is right now, and instead it's, again, can we maybe get two in potentially, right? If you get the best team in the league that dominates the league in the regular season, and then obviously somebody else wins the league tournament. Maybe you have a chance there too, because again, you're having a little bit more of a priority on some of those non-conference games where nobody else does. So I love the fact, again, that they are trying new ways. See if it works. If it doesn't, you can always pivot, but why not try? And I know, some coaches are going to push back on this because they're old school. I get it. But again, like, to me, you got to try something here, or else you're just going to be the same old deal, which is, that one team that's a 14, 15 seed. And, you get lucky, New Mexico State pulls a big upset, but you don't want to have to play that game normally against UConn. You want to have a team that's probably closer to a 10, 11, 12, give yourself a better shot.
Yeah, 5 teams from the WAC made the postseason, right? Grand Canyon and NCAA tournament. 2 teams went to the NIT. 2 teams went to the CBI. That's a big deal for a mid-major conference. And so when we're talking team specific, and we won't get into the weeds on X's and O's too much, Jeff. I know, I can go down that rabbit hole all day, but you can shut me up there. Grand Canyon, what Bryce Drew is doing, I don't think most people realize Number one, the lineup he has this season, it's a monster. Front court, huge. When you talk about transfers like Luke War from Oregon and Sidney Curry from Louisville, and then you have the backcourt of Ray Harrison, who's most likely, going to be one of the best mid-major guards in the country. But that atmosphere, that arena, those home games,
Yeah.
people need to start paying attention to Grand Canyon.
No doubt. I mean, I remember I was out at a doubleheader a few years ago in Phoenix, and those fans were absolutely insane. Yeah, absolutely insane. Among the best in the country that I've seen. That includes Duke and Kansas and all the, the biggest fan bases. So I'm really looking forward to getting to a game there at home. But what Bryce has done is awesome, and I'm glad for him because I thought he got a raw deal at Vanderbilt. To be honest. I thought he should have got another year or two to see if he could turn that. Obviously, Darius Garland was out for the whole year. But yeah, they bring back 3 of their top 4 players. Harrison's going to be a stud. Luke War didn't get a chance to play a ton at Oregon, but was banged up a little bit too. And Sidney Curry's a man-child. I mean, he is. You do not want to run into him like in a dark alley. Trust me, you're not going to win that battle. You're going to run the other way as fast as you can. And I've seen you run lately. I think Sydney's going to catch you in that one.
Yeah, the truth only hurts because it's the truth, So I unfortunately have to agree with you on that one. A lot of ibuprofen these days for me. When we kind of we talked big picture and we just talked a little Grand Canyon. There is another team that your work at the Field of 68, the Almanac, is off the charts. It's an enormous amount of manpower to get that done, but you guys picked UT Arlington as your sleeper team. And I think nationally, if you're a college basketball, especially grassroots geek, you know who KT Turner is. You know what kind of recruiter he is, but him as a head coach, UT Arlington, I'd love to get your perspective on when you saw that hire that was made.
Yeah, I've known KT for 15 years. So know him well, young, smart, really good X's and O's guy. Obviously can recruit at a high level. Did a great job a couple, at SMU. Was at Kentucky recently. Obviously, if John Calipari's hiring him at Kentucky, he's going to be pretty darn good. And he comes in, with a lot of energy, a lot of, younger. So I think these days, listen, Mike, we know this. These days, it pays to have a younger coach that can connect with these kids. Right. And a lot of the older coaches, and I know we're going to get into this, are frustrated with the changing landscape of college basketball, right? NIL, transfers. Well, a guy like KT Turner, listen, he's going to figure this thing out. He's going to figure it out because he's got no choice. He's in it for the long haul. And I think he was a heck of a hire for Arlington.
You said 2 things there that I think a lot of times people like to put in somewhat of a silo. You talk transfer portal, and then you talk NIL. They're linked as far as I'm concerned. And I think everybody's starting to realize that. Even the casual fan is starting to realize that. From a WAC basketball perspective, the transfer up, transfer down, and NIL components, you talked about the seeding system, the innovation, young coaches. What does the WAC really need to do when they're looking at becoming one of the premier mid-major leagues? How do you talk transfer portal and NIL when it comes to WAC basketball?
Well, we'll start with the portal. And I think it's, as a head coach, you've got to accept that no matter what relationship you have with a kid these days, if, for instance, if Duke comes in, if you're Stephen F. Austin and Kyle Keller or Bryce Drew, unless you got the money to be in the ballpark, you almost now want to recruit, Mike, with the thought of telling these kids, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to develop you. We're going to do the best we can with you. And hopefully a high major will come after you. And by the time and I know it sounds crazy to say that, but I think that's almost the best way to recruit some of these kids these days. And obviously you got to be older. You can't have a team like we used to see loaded with freshmen. That is not going to work these days. So what I think you have to do is figure out, hey, I'm going to lose some guys to the high major ranks, but I got to find those guys that maybe, were unhappy with their role. Maybe they weren't playing. again, a Sidney Curry's a great example, right? He was a rotation guy at Louisville, probably thought he'd be a starting big man, a five-man at Louisville. New coach comes in, Kenny Payne. Those are the guys you got to try to pick off. And if you lose a really established player that averaged 15 a game, you got to replace him with somebody that might average 5 a game at the high major level. But he comes down and now he can put up with an expanded role. He could put up 12 or 15.
Yeah, I think you wrote a really great article for Stadium in regards to, okay, players transferring up, players transferring down conference, and what were the success metrics actually look like. And I actually don't think we talk about that enough. I'm a transfer down player. Like you said, I didn't run well, so I needed to maybe go down a level. But the idea that transferring down has some type of negative connotation. But if you have aspirations beyond just college basketball and you get in the right system, that's the perfect type of scenario. I mean, I would assume in the WAC, if you're Bryce Drew, if you're KT Turner, you're selling that aspect of system, are you not?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And you've seen it over and over and over, right? Some of these guys who transfer down, they get a chance and then they end up playing professionally, whether it's in the NBA or overseas. They're getting that opportunity to show what they can do, getting the freedom that they just didn't get at the high major level. For one reason or another, they might have had a couple dudes already, and they were more of a piece instead of a featured guy. So I think, again, sometimes you see that, kid Brandon Pazinski last year, great example at Santa Clara, right? Like probably the best example we can ever give. He couldn't get off the bench at Illinois, couldn't get off the bench. He goes, and now he's a first-round pick. So he's the poster child, as far as I'm concerned, of a kid who transferred down, and it worked out. And, a lot of kids are going to look at him, and a lot of coaches at the mid-major level right now are selling AirPods, which was his nickname given to him by his father, AirPods, to some of these other mid-major kids.
Yeah, Santa Clara is kind of actually turning into somewhat of an NBA factory right now. Coach Sendak doing a really nice job there. So before we let you go, we've talked a little bit at the top, specifically Grand Canyon, little UT Arlington. Any other team, one or two teams that you think that just nationally we need to pay attention to or might be on the cusp of something better?
I mean, always you got to look at Stephen F., right? I mean, just what they have in terms of their history. Kyle Keller has dealt with a lot of injuries lately. A lot of injuries the last couple of years, but I think he'll get them back to where they were. Obviously, Kyle does a great job. Great, really, really underrated, I think, X's and O's guy over there. And I think Seattle, what they've been able to do with, Tyson coming back, like they're going to have a chance here to finish somewhere in that top upper echelon of the league. But again, I love this league. I love the coaches. I love what Brian Thornton has done to try to increase the profile. The other thing he's done, which, I give him a lot of admiration for, is he's been proactive reaching out to national media people. A lot of commissioners aren't doing it. They think they're above that. They don't have to do that. Brian's great. We talk all the time. And again, we've had a long-standing relationship as well. So I think the WAC is on the come up right now. And I don't think it's gotten enough credit for what they've been able to do, especially the last couple of years.
Well, we appreciate your time, Jeff. Thank you so much. And look forward to seeing you on the trail here. You and I were just talking before we got on. We're itching, ready for the season to get going. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. And when we come back, Kendra Sheehan will be with the legend, Ken Pomeroy, talking Ken Pom analytics when we come back.